Who exactly are you? After an incident, I was demoted from the head office to a rural branch. I'm now unwelcome by everyone and sidelined by my department with minimal responsibilities. Then one day, I ended up solving a problem for a younger boss who had transferred from the headquarters. The younger boss, who had thought of me as incapable, was surprised by my problem-solving skills. Following that, my life took a complete 180-degree turn. My name is Michael Johnson. I'm 43 years old. While my peers are busy with marriage, parenting, and climbing the career ladder, I'm single and stuck in a small rural branch, far removed from any prospects of promotion. My job involves organizing documents that are about to be stored away, likely never to be seen again. It's the kind of work that wouldn't really matter if I did it or not. If I suddenly quit tomorrow, it wouldn't cause any trouble for anyone. A few years ago, due to certain circumstances, I was transferred to this branch. Initially, I considered quitting, but by that time, I was past my prime working years, and job hunting in the countryside, where opportunities are scarce, seemed too daunting, so I ended up staying. I used to work at the head office. Suddenly, I was transferred from the head office to this small rural branch. Of course, there was a reason for this, and it seems that the story of why I was transferred had already spread widely within the branch. The original employees would whisper behind my back or look at me with suspicion. Despite that, I tried to engage with them at first, but it seemed they just wanted me to leave as soon as possible. Their overt attitudes sometimes interfered with the work. After several years of this, I've now focused solely on not causing any trouble. I'm treated almost like I don't exist. At best, I'm harmless. At worst, I'm ignored. But reaching this state also required a lot of effort and humility on my part, so in a way, it's a satisfactory outcome for me. Then one day, a new manager, a transfer from the head office, joined our branch. She was a smart-looking woman in her late 20s, dressed sharply in a suit. Unlike my demotion, her transfer was part of grooming her for a future leadership role. "My name is Sarah. I look forward to working with you." She introduced herself, exuding the air of an elite with a confident demeanor. Initially, she seemed a bit stiff, but as she settled in, she began to show more of her youthful, vibrant smile. However, just because she has moved, it didn't change my job in any way. Even though she was my direct superior, there was little interaction between us, given my sidelined position. Sarah held individual meetings with all employees soon after arriving. When it was my turn, I explained my work situation as it was. Sarah frowned and seemed to want to say something, but she didn't, and the meeting ended without any changes to my situation. In the end, my work and life remained unchanged. I spend my days doing meaningless work and head home once it's time to clock out. At home, all I do is eat and then go to sleep. My daily life hasn't changed at all from before. With so little work to do, I even spend my breaks leisurely. I often finish my lunch quickly and then take walks around the office to pass the time. Lately, I've noticed Sarah frequently using her phone in secluded spots. Being a young woman, she might be in touch with a boyfriend, I thought. However, Sarah always looked troubled during these moments. Wouldn't she look happier or more excited if she were talking to her boyfriend? I found that a bit curious. But even though I've seen this scene many times, I figured it was none of my business. I hadn't paid much attention to it before, but yesterday, I saw Sarah again, and she looked even more troubled than usual. I just couldn't get her distressed face out of my mind. Even if she had a serious problem, it's unlikely she would turn to someone like me for help, so I decided to carry on as usual. The next day, I arrived at the office first, as always. If there's one good thing about being transferred here, it's that I've been able to lead a healthier lifestyle. With an early-to-bed, early-to-rise routine, and leaving work on time. My health is in top shape. Living alone, I cook my own meals not just on weekend, but every day. Bringing my homemade lunch and starting the day by wiping down my desk in an empty office has become my daily ritual. Previously, after I arrived at work, William, who is nearing retirement, would usually come in next, but that order changed after Sarah moved. And today, as usual, Sarah came in a while after I did. I greeted her, but noticed her complexion looked worse than usual. Today, her face was particularly pale. While watching her, I suddenly realized something. Come to think of it, she used to smile so much at first, but lately, I haven't seen her smile at all. Concerned about her extremely pale complexion, I was about to suggest that she go home, when I heard an "eh" from her desk. At that moment, William arrived, and both he and I turned our gaze towards Sarah. In the direction of our gaze, there was Sarah, pale as a ghost and trembling violently. She was shaking so uncontrollably that the phone she was holding fell to the floor with a dull thud. Seeing Sarah in such a state, I instinctively rushed over to her and asked, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" Then I saw the screen of the droppable phone. It was receiving notifications in real time, and the chat screen was filled with a one-sided barrage of harsh messages, aggressive stickers, and emojis. Seeing that chat screen brought back unpleasant memories for me. But I knew I had to prioritize Sarah right now. I pushed those resurfacing memories aside and asked her gently, "Can I take a look at your phone?" Trembling and tearful with fear, Sarah nodded and handed me her phone despite being in shock. Upon looking at the messages sent to Sarah Gay, I saw an endless stream of texts filled with harsh insults, derogatory remarks, and mocking content, all expressed in the harshest terms imaginable. Towards the end, the messages took a disturbing turn, clearly implying harm, and it felt incredibly dangerous. Although memories from my past threatened to overwhelm me, I made a conscious effort to stay calm and proceeded to ask Sarah a few questions. "Do you know this person?" She shook her head in response to my question. "Any idea who it could be?" As I continued, she bit her lip and answered, "I received comments from this person on a different social media platform. It started off normally, but gradually became more extreme. I got scared and blocked them, and then this happened. They've also spread lies about me to my friends and on forums. I'm so scared I can barely sleep." Sarah, seemingly at her limit, buried her exhausted face in her hands. Seeing Sarah like that, I felt a pain in my heart, as if I was looking at my past self. At the same time, I decided I couldn't let her go through what I did and resolved to help her. "Let's fight back," I said. Sarah looked puzzled at my words, but I was confident I could help her. I understood her pain, sadness, fear, anger, and despair better than anyone. As more employees started arriving, they cast curious looks at the unusual pairing of Sarah and me. Despite feeling the weight of their stares, leaving was not an option for me. Even though Sarah seemed confused, I pointed to her personal computer and asked, "Do you have the history saved?" It might have been harsh to press her in her dazed state, but time was of the essence, and we couldn't afford to waste any. Given the situation, I knew we had to methodically address what needed to be done, so I began giving Sarah instructions. Despite being sidelined at the office now, I was once a high-flying executive at the head office, just a step away from the boardroom. Having studied how to lead and motivate subordinates as a manager, I knew how to get Sarah to take action, despite her current state of shock. I instructed her to first file a deletion request with the SNS administrators. We aimed to get the situation to a point where we could identify the perpetrator in accordance with the terms specified in the service agreement. Then, we printed out all the history and posts from the SNS and forums where Sarah had been harassed, and compiled information such as URLs and email addresses. "Let's go to the police together," I suggested. By then, Sarah had calmed down somewhat, and, though she seemed puzzled by my efficiency, she nodded in agreement and followed me to the police station. At the police station, I explained the situation and the measures we had taken, and Sarah presented the evidence to the officers. I emphasized to the police, who didn't seem to grasp the severity of the situation, the rapid escalation of the harasser's messages, their repetitive use of certain phrases, and the extensive collection of Sarah's information, indicating a high likelihood of habitual stalking and a clear threat of physical violence. The officers, struck by the seriousness of our case, even questioned our relationship. Despite the rumors that might arise about a young woman being involved with an older guy like me, I couldn't help but deny it in a panic, which ended up amusing both the police officer and Sarah. Considering the current situation, the culprit hasn't been identified yet. Moreover, the chances of resolution seem slim, given we're dealing with a small, local police station. All we could do was carry out whatever measures were possible at the moment, but I knew the importance of these actions all too well. After leaving the police station, I introduced Sarah to a trustworthy lawyer on our way back to the office. It was a necessary step for officially establishing the case. Sarah seemed puzzled by my extensive involvement. "Who exactly are you, Michael? Why are you going to such lengths for me?" It was a natural question, given our nearly non-existent prior interaction. Though my acquaintance with Sarah was brief, I found nothing dubious about her character, nor did she seem like someone who would create enemies. That's why I felt it would be terribly unfair for her bright future to be ruined by vile individuals. I didn't want her to go through the same experiences I had. But unable to convey this to Sarah, I awkwardly brushed it off. "Nah, just happened to know a thing or two." Eventually, the man behind the harassment and threats towards Sarah was apprehended. He was a complete stranger to her, but apparently, the SNS platform had notified him that they were a good match. Using the information from Sarah's SNS, he began to obsessively project his ideal image onto her. The content he posted on forums, portraying himself as an ex-boyfriend, made me acutely aware of the dangers of sharing personal information online with strangers. After the ordeal with Sarah was resolved, I returned to my routine at the office. However, to my surprise, I wasn't the first to arrive that day. When I got to the office, Sarah was already at her desk, greeting me with a bright smile. "Good morning," she said. Initially surprised, I too returned the greeting with a smile upon seeing her carefree smile, saying, "Good morning." As I was about to sit at my desk, Sarah marched up to me. She said, "Could I have a moment?" while pointing outside. I had thought our paths wouldn't cross again after resolving the issue. I was wondering what was going on, but I followed her lead. We stopped in front of the bulletin board used for company announcements. Sarah, with a childlike excitement, unveiled a notice with a "ta-da." I braced myself for potential bad news. Apprehensively, I turned my gaze to the notice board, where a temporary personnel announcement was posted. My name, current position, and a transfer to the head office's new CSIRT department were detailed in the center. Caught off guard, Sarah explained the new department to me with a face beaming with joy, as if to say the surprise was a huge success. This CSIRT department, she elaborated, was established as a specialized division within the company, extending beyond mere internal security to focus specifically on issues like information leaks. She then revealed her secret. "Actually, I'm the niece of President Charles. Though I was hired on my own merit, it's undeniable that my situation greatly influenced the establishment of this department." She shared the backstory of the department's inception and chuckled mischievously. Seeing my astonishment, Sarah seemed pleased. She then shared something Mr. Charles had told her. "It's true I asked for your help, but beyond that, Mr. Charles has long wished to bring you back to the head office. Despite the difficulty in overturning decisions in such a large company, He regrets exacerbating the hardship of a valued employee. As a family member and someone you've helped, I sincerely apologize. I'm truly sorry." With that, Sarah apologized to me. Indeed, I was once on a fast track at the head office, well regarded by Mr. Charles. However, amidst my rapid progress, an incident occurred in the neighborhood where a girl went missing. Of course, I was aware of the news, but I largely brushed it off as someone else's problem. At that time, I was living in a suburban house with my wife and 2 daughters. However, I was practically only coming home to sleep, so I knew nothing about the neighborhood or the people living in it. Therefore, it should have been an incident that had nothing to do with me. But some time after the disappearance, my name was somehow posted on a popular bulletin board as a suspect. Before I knew it, my address, family, social media accounts, and workplace were all exposed, and I was condemned as a criminal by the public without my knowledge. My family and I were harassed by the media and onlookers to the point that we couldn't even return home. I was suspended from work and had to attend police inquiries. For a while, my family and I took refuge in my in-laws' house far away, but after a few weeks, even my in-laws, who initially welcomed us warmly, started to look at me with suspicion. Feeling the awkwardness, I discussed leaving with my wife, but she and my daughters couldn't even look me in the eye. Realizing I had no place left, I silently packed my bags and moved to a hotel alone. It was then that I truly realized how much I had neglected my family bonds by focusing solely on work, but it was too late. Since then, I've been hiding alone in cheap hotels like a real criminal. I kept wondering how long this life would last, constantly haunted by the worst thoughts. Months later, the girl's case was suddenly resolved. The culprit was a university student from a distant state who had contacted her through a website for runaways. He lured her to his home through clever manipulation on social media and confined her there. Of course, neither the girl or the arrested student had any acquaintance or relation to me. When I saw the news of the case being solved, I broke down and wept on the spot. While I was relieved the case was solved, I couldn't help but wonder what my life had been all about until now. Overwhelmed by various emotions, I cried all day long. And the next day, though still in a daze, I regained my original vitality and decided to take action. I rushed to a law firm offering free consultations and shared my story. The lawyer I met was familiar with my case and became a strong ally, promising to ensure I received justice. From there, everything moved quickly. We rallied public support, pressured the providers and administrators, and quickly obtained information on the malicious party who spread my personal information, filing a lawsuit. The man who ruined my life was arrested easily. I didn't recognize the culprit's name, but when I mentioned it to my wife, who had just returned home, her face went pale. It turns out the man was her high school classmate. They had reconnected at a reunion and had been in touch since, with my wife often sharing her complaints and frustrations about me with him. My wife insisted she hadn't cheated, but at that point, it didn't matter to me anymore. My feelings for her had completely cooled. Of course, it's not entirely her fault. The breakdown of a marriage is often due to both parties. This situation was a result of my neglecting my family. I realized this through the ordeal, and although my wife insisted she wasn't to blame until the end, I didn't blame her. And as for my daughters, who I did love in my own way, they didn't warm up to me much either, having spent so much time with a mother who disliked me, so our parting was over in an instant. It was a surprisingly abrupt end to my family, but the case had been resolved after all. Feeling motivated by the resolution, I decided to return to work and give it my all. However, life wasn't that simple. Upon my return, I was met with a transfer to a small rural branch office, a clear demotion. This personnel change had been issued before the true culprit and the person who spread my personal information were caught. But as far as the company was concerned, it was better to err on the side of caution. I was expected to take responsibility for causing a stir. Having just returned and faced with this decree, I even considered quitting. But with a trial still pending and essentially nothing else left for me, I accepted the transfer. And so, I was assigned to the current branch. Despite being viewed as an unwelcome presence, as if where there's smoke, there's fire, I continued to be part of the company, eventually becoming the man who doesn't work. Although I was reminiscing about the bitter memories of the past, I couldn't help but smile at the story about Mr. Charles that was conveyed to me by Sarah. I indeed had my concerns about the treatment I received at the time. However, I wasn't fired or demoted, and I've heard it was because Mr. Charles opposed the transfer until the end. Considering his kindness, looking back, I can now say that life in the countryside here was enjoyable. Upon hearing my words, Sarah timidly showed a smile. As we were talking, a woman approached us timidly and said, "Excuse me." She was Lisa from the same department, but we had never really spoken before, and she stood a bit away from us. Listening to our conversation, Lisa approached us with a tearful face and apologized. "I think I was initially unfriendly to you, and yet you helped me in many ways. I realized it was a misunderstanding, but I never said anything. I'm truly sorry." It turned out that not only Lisa, but also William was there, and peeking out, he joined in with an apology. Well, I didn't really mind, but I'm sorry I couldn't be of any help. Feeling bashful from their apologies, I ended up making a joke. "What is this? Is today apologize to me day?" Then, Sarah, with a bright smile, suggested, "Should we make it a day? Let's invite Mr. Charles too." Seeing me flustered, all four of us burst into laughter. I never thought I'd see a day when I could laugh like this again. It's a secret that I felt a little teary-eyed. A month after this incident, after a surprisingly comfortable farewell party at the branch, I found myself in the president's office at the headquarters. Mr. Charles, as vigorous as ever, was there, and I felt a warmth in my heart to meet him again. Then, Mr. Charles personally explained the significance and purpose of my new department and the expectations for it after its establishment. Not many have experienced a life like yours. However, there will continue to be instances where innocent people like you and your niece suffer. It's presumptuous for a company that couldn't be there for you at that time to say this. But it's precisely because of the regret from that time that I strongly felt the need for a department that can protect not only the company, but also its employees. I believe you, who understand my requests and the meaning of the department, are the right person to lead it. I'm counting on you." Feeling a surge of resolve at his words, I firmly responded, "Yes." And so, I returned to the headquarters as the head of the new department. I was warmly welcomed by those who knew me from before. I received offers of cooperation from many people, and the feelings of disappointment and emptiness I had when I left seemed to finally disappear. I thought I had no allies, no place to belong. But I realized that there were always people who stood by me. Life is unpredictable. What seemed smooth just a moment ago can suddenly plunge into darkness. Conversely, when you think it's all over, you might find joy in unexpected places and pleasant surprises waiting for you. Having gone through various experiences, I've come to truly understand what life is about. Just as harsh natural conditions can create beautiful landscapes, I'd like to think that my experiences have added some depth to me as a person. Now, I stand in front of the new department that has become my place, once again. Slapping my cheeks with both hands to psych myself up, I say "all right" out loud and step into my new department, ready to start anew. I've always had someone unforgettable from my high school days who I had a crush on. Holding the class reunion invitation that was in the post, I made a certain resolution. If she attends this reunion, I want to convey the feelings I harbored during high school to her. With that vow in my heart, I decided to attend the reunion. Little did I know at the time that this decision would change my fate. My name is James, just an ordinary office worker you'd find anywhere. Single, with no significant other. As all my friends started getting married one by one, I felt left behind. But with my busy work schedule, I didn't have the luxury to find a partner. Then, one day, could this be? When I got home and checked the mailbox, there was an envelope labeled Class Reunion Invitation. Upon opening it, I found an invitation to a high school reunion. The invitation contained a QR code, which led to a web page where I could indicate whether I was attending. Although the reunion was scheduled for Saturday, it fell during a busy period at work, making it difficult for me to attend. I wanted to see my high school classmates, but it seemed I had no choice but to miss this time. Just as I was about to give up and tap "will not attend" to send it, I remembered something. Madison. A name I had almost never thought of until today suddenly popped into my head. Madison was the girl I had been infatuated with throughout my 3 years in high school. I tried to recall the delicate and beautiful Madison from back then. If Madison is going to be there. Of course, it wasn't like I still had feelings for Madison. But I was just curious about what had become of Madison, whom I hadn't seen since high school. Driven by the thought that Madison might be there, I tapped the "will attend" button and sent it. And then, the day of the reunion arrived. At the venue, familiar faces were joyfully catching up, their conversations blossoming. With a glass of iced tea in hand, I looked around for Madison. Ah, there she is. Madison was surrounded by several women, being showered with compliments like, "You've become even more beautiful," and "You were cute in high school, but now you're even more stunning." Indeed, Madison had become more beautiful than she was in high school. Her beauty had been refined even further. As I stared at Madison, she seemed to notice my gaze and turned to smile at me. Is she looking at me? Maybe I stared a bit too intently and quickly averted my gaze. "James, right?" "Yes." "It's been a while. Is everything okay?" "Huh?" "You were looking my way so intently. I thought you might have something you wanted to say." "Oh, no, it's nothing like that." The light purple party dress suited Madison frighteningly well. Just a brief conversation with Madison, and my feelings from back then quickly came rushing back. I guess I haven't forgotten about Madison at all. "By the way, I heard earlier that you're really busy these days, right?" Yes, well, somewhat." I wonder who told her. "Even so, you made time to come to the reunion. Was there someone you wanted to see?" "Huh?" "Because, you know, if we wanted to contact our high school classmates, we could do so anytime we wanted to, right?" Caught off guard and at a loss for words, I was left speechless. Watching me fumble for words, Madison chuckled amusingly. Feeling suddenly embarrassed, I laughed awkwardly while scratching my head, trying to play it off. As Madison and I engaged in casual conversation, we discovered we shared common interests, like enjoying walks and frequently going to the movies on weekends, which brought us closer. "Hey, Madison." "Whom?" "Do you have time after this?" "What?" "If it's okay with you, instead of going to the after party, would you like to grab a drink with me?" As our conversation flowed, I realized that I still had feelings for Madison, reigniting my old unrequited love. Madison was momentarily surprised by my invitation, but quickly smiled and accepted it with "I'd be delighted." As the reunion came to an end, we started looking for a place to go. Considering we shouldn't stray too far from the station, while mulling over various options. Hey, how about this place? Oh yeah, that looks good. Let's go there. Sure. The place Madison suggested was a small bar located in a corner of an old shopping district. Once inside, we found it to be quite cozy. It was quiet and had a great atmosphere. The bar was run by a middle-aged couple who were both kind and attentive, leaving nothing to be desired. Madison and I sat side by side at the counter. Looking through the menu, we found a wide variety of dishes. Wow, this is amazing. Really, it's hard to choose. Madison also flipped through the menu, seemingly undecided. If you're having trouble deciding, the daily special is a good choice. What's the daily special? Today, it's buffalo wings. The lady of the house recommended the daily special, and both Madison and I decided to go for it. Satisfied with the delicious meal, Madison and I spent a pleasant and calm time together. Perhaps due to its inconspicuous location, the bar was quiet with only a few other customers besides Madison and me. What made you two decide to open this place? While observing the well-coordinated couple, Madison asked them. The wife was momentarily surprised but quickly smiled. We always talked about opening a place where we and everyone else could smile and spend a relaxed time ever since we met. Wow, that's wonderful. The wife laughed at Madison's reaction, while the husband shyly averted his gaze. After that, Madison and I spent our time at the bar, occasionally chatting with the couple. Couples like them are wonderful, aren't they? During a pause in our conversation with the couple, as the husband went back to cooking and the wife to attending other customers, Madison whispered, "Huh? Don't you admire it? A peaceful couple like that. It's nice, isn't it, to run a small but cozy place like this?" I was momentarily taken aback by Madison's unexpected remark. However, Madison's words led me to a certain resolution. I took a deep breath and turned my body to face Madison, who was sitting next to me. "Hey, Madison." "Yeah." "Do you have a partner now?" "No, I don't." Madison's cheeks were faintly red as she said this. Was it because of the alcohol, or perhaps? I see. Like you, I'm too busy with work to have time for a partner. Work is my lover, you could say. Madison laughed amusingly and took a bite of her chicken. "So, Madison, you're busy with work too. What do you do?" "I'm a public servant." Madison answered shortly, without turning her gaze towards me. "A public servant, huh?" I imagined Madison working at an office, reaching out to help those in need. That suits her. Madison had always been kind and gentle since our school days, so it seemed like the perfect job for her. "What about you, James? What do you do?" "I'm just a regular office worker, nothing special." "I see." Madison seemed to be enjoying the conversation. It was getting late into our meal. "Sorry, I'm going to use the restroom." "All right." "Okay." After watching Madison head to the restroom, I called over to the bartender. "Excuse me." "Yes." "Could I get the bill for the two of us, please?" "Sure, no problem." The bartender's wife promptly moved to the cash register after overhearing our conversation. As I took my wallet and headed towards the register near the entrance, the door to the bar opened with a loud noise. "Huh, there's hardly anyone here." A group of 6 rowdy-looking individuals entered the bar as if they owned the place. "All right, this spot good." "Yeah, it's empty, anywhere's fine really." "What do they have here?" "No idea." The ruffians spread out the menus on the table and started discussing loudly what to order. "Hey, that looks good. What's this?" "This is..." The group began to make a lot of noise, talking loudly. And then, unbelievably, they started bothering the other customers who were just trying to enjoy their meals. Their intimidating appearance seemed to terrify the other customers, who were met with smirks from the ruffians. "Don't be so scared, we're not gonna do anything to you. Yes, we just wanted to make friends by talking to you, that's all. Hey, hurry up and take our order." The once quiet bar became noisy. The bartender stopped cooking, unsure of how to handle the sudden situation, while his wife looked on the verge of tears as she watched the ruffians. I couldn't stand the thought of these people ruining the peaceful atmosphere of a bar started by a couple who wanted to make their customers smile. Feeling I couldn't just stand by and watch, I decided to confront the ruffians. "Hey, you guys. What do you want? Don't you care that you are bothering everyone around you? What, you playing hero? Cool, man. Huh? Mind your own business. We're paying our way, so it's all good. This place is for quietly enjoying drinks and food. If you can't respect that, you telling us to get out, what gives you the right to act all high and mighty? Then you're the one who should leave. How about we just rent out this place for ourselves? Then we won't be bothering anyone, right?" The ruffians seemed unfazed by my attempt to intervene. Instead, they suddenly decided to rent out the place and forcefully kick me out, pushed by several of them. Since I was thrown out with nothing on me, all my belongings, including my phone, were left at the counter seat. Realizing I had left my phone behind when I reached for my pocket to call the police. "Excuse me, do any of you have a phone on you?" I asked the other customers who, like me, had been kicked out of the store, but it turned out that everyone had left their belongings inside, and not a single person had a means to contact the police. Madison. I remembered that Madison had left for the restroom just before the ruffians showed up, which meant she was unaware of their presence inside. I tried to open the door, but it was locked from the inside. I moved to a window through which I could peek inside without being noticed by the ruffians. Just then, Madison came out of the restroom. Unaware of the situation, she inevitably ran into the ruffians. Upon spotting Madison, the ruffians quickly surrounded her. "Hey, look, a lady all by herself. Got ditched by her boyfriend. Huh? Poor thing. Why don't you have a drink with us and cheer up?" One of the ruffians put his arm around Madison's waist and pulled her close. Madison. Unable to bear the thought of Madison being touched by their filthy hands, I tried to open the door in a rage, but it wouldn't budge. Even trying to force it open, I couldn't manage it alone. From my perspective, Madison seemed frightened by the ruffians, but in reality, she was completely calm at that moment. The reason for her calmness would soon become clear. Instead of Madison's scream, what reached my ears as I struggled with the door was the sound of men's groans and a loud commotion. What? Is Madison being attacked? With the help of other customers, we managed to pry the door open, but what I saw was an unbelievable sight. The delicate Madison was gracefully taking down one ruffian after another, as if in a scene from a comic book, despite their larger size. Madison was completely unharmed. In fact, seeing the situation, I almost felt sorry for the ruffians. "You bastards, we were being nice, and you got all cocky." Madison continued to throw the ruffians to the ground one after another. Her movements were so swift that I couldn't even join in to help, and I just watched the ruffians fall one by one. Actually, even if I had tried to help Madison, I would have just gotten in the way. Once the ruffians were all lying on the floor, unable to fight back, Madison let out a small sigh. Then, she casually took out her phone from her pocket and started making a call. "Hello, this is Madison. Yes, Madison. I'm currently at an AB district. Listening in. It seemed like she wasn't making a personal call, but rather one related to her work. James. After ending the call, Madison immediately noticed me and hurried over. Wearing a slightly awkward smile, Madison approached. Madison, are you hurt at all? Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. That's good to hear. Relieved to know Madison was unharmed, I could finally breathe easy. A few minutes later, several police cars pulled up in front of the store. They arrived quickly. Madison and I walked out of the bar together towards the cars. There, a police officer greeted her with a salute. Good work. Madison, great job. I could hear such exchanges reaching my ears. Everyone is inside. Can you take the statements later? Of course. Madison seemed to be acquainted with the officers. There were so many things I wanted to ask Madison, like whether she was injured, what had happened, and how she knew the police officer, but I couldn't find the words for any of it. After some hesitation, I decided to ask Madison the one thing that was on my mind. Madison, are you by any chance? Yes. Related to the police? James, you're sharp. Yes, I'm an active duty police officer. Madison pulled out her police badge from her bag. Indeed, the photo and name on it were unmistakably Madison's. It seems that after graduating from high school, Madison entered the police academy. It felt like a career Madison, with her strong sense of justice, would choose. It made more sense than her being a public service worker. Right, a public servant, huh? Well, yes, that's true. Police officers are public servants, so Madison wasn't wrong. But I felt a bit frustrated that I hadn't figured it out myself. The way I took down those ruffians, it's something I learned during my time at the police academy. See, I can handle being targeted now. Is that so? Sorry for keeping it a secret. I felt like the image you had of me was still from high school, so I just went with it, you know. But where does someone as delicate as you get that kind of strength from? Haha, it's martial arts. Once you learn it, anyone can do it. Are you disappointed? What? No way. Really? That's good. Madison smiled at me, looking relieved. Actually, it's way too cool, and the gap with your usual self made me fall for you even more. I like you, Madison. I'm so happy that you first worried about whether I was hurt. Your kindness hasn't changed since high school, and that made me so happy. You're always you, James. Does that mean? Yes, I like you too, James. And so, the feelings I harbored since high school finally found their resolution, and Madison and I officially started dating.